Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. September 18th, 2017.
Later this hour, the story the media is trying to bury regarding the 4 female Boston College foreign exchange students who were sprayed with acid at a Marseille train station over the weekend in southern France. I'm going to have that. A lot more, believe me. But first, my friends, I just want to give everybody another heads up. I had a confrontation with Senator Elizabeth Warren right outside the studios here at WRKO. It is up on WRKO.com. You can see all of it for yourself. It is going viral. It is going, everywhere. Brittany, should we play it one more time? Yeah, okay, we'll play it one more time, and you can see for it yourself very quickly. So she had done an event here, or an interview, should I be more specific, here in the WRKO studio with the veterans. They have a pre-tape show. They do a great show, really a first-class show. And to give the chief her due, she was friendly. She shook hands with them after the interview, took a picture with them. Somebody gave me a heads up a couple minutes before she left, saying, hey, Kuhner, you're not going to believe it, but Elizabeth Warren is literally in your studio, I believe sitting in your chair. I'm like, you're kidding. So I walk into the booth, and guess what? Brittany's got her jaw down, or like her jaw fell down. She's like, that's the chief. I'm like, there's the chief. I can't believe it. In hostile territory. So about 2 minutes later, she came out of the studio. I met her. I confronted her in the hallway. Said, hey, Senator Elizabeth Warren. I shook her hand. I said, hey, can we have a picture together? So we actually took a picture together. And then I asked her this. Roll it, Brittany.
I asked you one quick question. You often say, and I agree with you, that the 99% are getting shafted by the 1%.
Yep.
But let me ask you this. A lot of people, especially my listeners, say you live in Cambridge, you've got a $2 million mansion, plus you're a multi-millionaire yourself. How can you rail against the 1% when in a sense you are and live like the 1%?
So let me make clear. I wasn't born in Cambridge. I was born into a family where my daddy had one job after another. He ended up as a janitor. My mom worked a minimum wage job at Sears. All 3 of my brothers went into the military. That was their ticket to try to make it into the middle class. For me, I wanted to be a public school teacher. There was not even enough money for an application to college, much less to be able to pay for college. Long and twisted story, I got married early.
And you made millions of dollars, correct?
Hold on. No, I ended up graduating. Hold on. I ended up graduating.
Cambridge, do you not?
I ended up graduating from a commuter college that cost $50 a semester. And I became a special needs teacher. And when I had a baby and started going to school part-time at a state law school that cost $450 a semester, that's how I had opportunity. And I am deeply grateful to an America that made those opportunities possible.
I know.
Those opportunities,
but you are part of the 1%.
Those opportunities are not available in America today.
But you are a multimillionaire and you have a mansion in Cambridge, do you not? It's north of $2 million.
I had opportunities because America invested in kids like me, and that's the reason I'm in public office. It's so I can make sure that the next kid
but
and
you're
the
part
next
of the
kid.
1%,
What I
and
am
you
is
rail
I'm
against
part,
the 1%. You don't see the hypocrisy there?
It's not hypocrisy.
You're a multimillionaire.
What this is about is whether you believe in opportunity or not. I believe in opportunity, and it's what I fight
You mean the $350,000 for one course? Is that the opportunity, Senator?
And, of course, she just ran out. She couldn't, literally, and you got to see it. That's why it's going viral. It's not just that she couldn't handle the question. She's red in the face like a tomato. Her body is twitching. Brittany, is it me? Was her right leg kicking? Her right leg was kicking. So the right leg is kicking, and she's like jabbing her finger. I thought she was going to put it through my throat. She's like jabbing her finger, and her body's twitching, and she's squirming because she can't handle the fact that I exposed her as a Class A hypocrite and phony and fraud. So anyway, my friends, we talked about it in the first hour. I don't want to linger on this anymore, but you can go to WRKO.com. You can see the entire exchange for yourself, and I expose her for the phony and fraud and hypocrite that she is. 617-266-6868. Now, the question you may ask is this. How does a fraud like Elizabeth Warren, Chief Spreading Bull, continue to get the support of moonbats and liberals, not just here in the People's Republic of Massachusetts, but say in California, in progressive states and liberal strongholds all over the country? It is because of the intense brainwashing and indoctrination, I'm choosing my words very carefully, that is taking place now in our public school systems. And in particular, they've now reached a new low. And this story, my friends, I am telling you, has touched a nerve because it is going to come to a school near you. Listen now to this. So as you know, the liberals are now pushing, primarily through Common Core, to try to teach our children that America is a racist, bigoted country, that it was founded upon slavery, dead white men, yada, yada, yada. But they don't feel the students are getting the message clearly enough. And so now they really want to drill it into their heads. So listen now to what they're starting to do. They now want students to experience actual slavery, or as close as they can, so they can have more empathy towards the victims of the slave trade. So listen to this. I want to give a big hat tip to Gateway Pundit for having the guts to go with this story. Teachers at Whitney High School. Whitney High School, by the way, used to be known as a creme de la creme, as a top-class public school. It used to be known in California as a great public school. Well, this is now what they're teaching at Whitney High School in Cerritos, California. So to teach the students about the slave trade and what slaves experienced under the slave trade, in the 8th grade, they now have history students have their wrists taped. I'm not kidding. They have their wrists taped together with duct tape, and then they have the students go into a completely dark room, pitch black, where they are told to lie down on the ground, shoulder to shoulder, and just sit there for 50 minutes with their tied up, taped hands, sitting in the darkness. And the reason why they're doing this is because they want the students to understand what it was like to be a slave during the slave trade, and to expose the students to the so-called horrors of slavery. So specifically, when class starts, this was the email they sent out before they actually did it to the students. We will sternly tell them to line up outside the classroom, use masking tape to tie their wrists together, make them lay on the ground inside the room, which will be dark, shoulder to shoulder with each other. Boys and girls are in separate rows. And then while they lay there, they're going to lay there in the pitch black. And then at the end, they're going to have them watch a clip from Roots. You know, the movie Roots. Now, one of the mothers whose children are going to be taped, wrists are going to be taped and put them in a dark room for this slavery lesson, tweeted out literally, white suburban mom here. I think it's okay to tie up students and lock them in dark rooms to simulate slavery. The mother, or at least one of the mothers, actually thinks this is okay. Where to begin? It's like shooting fish in a barrel. Where to begin? Let me start here. As you know, I have 2 beautiful children. I love them to death, Ashton and Ava. Okay? One's 7, one's 5. If I tied my kids' hands up, say with Ziploc ties or with tape or whatever, and I put them into a dark room for 50 minutes, pitch black, and I said this on, admitted on the air, yeah, that's how I discipline my kids. I tie them up and then I put them in a room and I put them in the dark for 50 full minutes. I would have the Department of Children and Families, I would have DCF barreling down on me so fast your head would spin. They would take my children away from me. It's child abuse. What they're doing now in schools, and at Whitney School and at this Whitney Public High School in particular, is child abuse. You don't tie up the kids. You don't put them in a dark room. You don't have them sit there for 50 minutes. You don't degrade and humiliate them by having lie on the floor. This is not how you're supposed to teach slavery or the slave trade. It doesn't have to be done through abuse and humiliation. That, to me, is point number one. So if it's child abuse for Jeff Kuhner, and it will be child abuse for you if you did that to your kids, why isn't it child abuse to those poor kids at Whitney High School in California? That's point number one. Point number two, by this liberal logic and reasoning, well, okay. You want to find out, you want to empathize, you want to simulate what it's like, say, I don't know, to be a woman in an Islamic society, to be a gay or a lesbian in an Islamic society. So why don't we start burying students up to their neck, I'm not kidding, and throwing tennis balls off their heads to show them, you see, that's what it feels like to get stoned. You see, if you're a woman and you commit adultery, that's what they do to you in Muslim countries. They stone you like this. How does it feel? Oh, you're a gay or a lesbian? That's what they bury you and then they stone you like this. You like that? How about as a way to teach the Holocaust? Let's get the students, let's put tattoos on the kids' forearms. Say, you see, you get tattooed, and then we can line them up. I'm not kidding. Line them up outside some dilapidated building. And say, no, why don't you guys go in there for 50 minutes? And I don't know, we may drop gas on you, we may not. You want to see what it's like to have been Jewish and a Holocaust victim? Just line them up, baby. And you're going to wait in line. And we'll take your clothes off. Just keep the underwear. Like that's what they did to the Jews. They dressed them down. You want to understand the Holocaust? That's what you need to do. This is sick. This is what this is. This is sick. This is the clear brainwashing and indoctrination of the children. They cannot really teach them analytically, logically, historically, what slavery was, why it emerged. So they have to use these kinds of ridiculous gimmicks to instill so much fear into the students, to so shock the students, and then use guilt, use almost psychological abuse, terror, to teach the kids so they will toe the ideological, politically correct, liberal line. That's what this is. Nothing more and nothing less. If you want to know why parents are increasingly homeschooling their children, if you want to know why parents are putting their kids into parochial, private, or Catholic schools. And let me give you another quick story. My wonderful Ashton, okay, he's very gregarious, very social guy. He's like his father, okay? He likes to talk to people. So he's got a lot of friends. He's got a great friend. She's a female student, same grade as him, grade 1. Her parents are from India. They're not even Catholic. She's a wonderful girl. She had a birthday party this weekend. She invited Ashton and some of her, classroom friends. They had, by the way, when the Indians throw a shindig, wow. Oh, it's almost like a Jewish bar mitzvah. Boy, they know how to throw a party, okay? But let that go. First class all the way. But let that go. So my wife is talking, to some of the other wives, and she said, are you guys Catholic? They go, no, we're Hindu, we're Indian. So why do you send your child to a Catholic school? Keep them out of the public school. I don't care. The Our Father, the Hail Mary, they're teaching them the Ten Commandments, right from wrong. We're not worried about that. We know our kids are going to get great moral instruction. The particular religion doesn't bother us, but we don't want to hand our kids over to the public school teachers. We just want them out because they will destroy our kids. If you want to know why homeschooling now is in the millions, why there is a huge movement to send your kids, people's kids, my kids, even though it's costing me a ton of money, but let that go. The private schools, parochial schools, religious schools, this is the reason why. Examples like this. To me, if you can afford it, and I know believe me, it's breaking my bank. If you can afford it, or if you have the time to homeschool your children, many people don't. If you love your child, do it. Because I'm telling you, what they are now doing in the public schools, agree, disagree, but to me, if it's not child abuse, it's borderline child abuse. 617-266-6868. What do you make of these new teaching methods? And should children be subjected to having their hands tied and put in a dark room to understand and simulate the experience of slavery? Your calls next. Lines are loaded. Bill in Newton. Go ahead, Bill.
Hello?
Hi, Bill. Go ahead. Floor is yours.
If we have a memorial in Boston for the victims of Germany...
the Holocaust.
6 million Jews, right? Why shouldn't we have a memorial for the victims of slavery in Boston? I think it would be a nice gesture.
And Bill, and you think that would end a lot of this nonsense that we're seeing now in the classrooms, correct?
Right, because I think it would be an educational experience for all.
And basically we can say, look, here's a nice memorial to honor the victims, and we don't need to put kids and tie them up in duct tape and have them have them in a classroom for 50 minutes in the dark.
Right, but I agree with you. The point is, why don't we have a national memorial for the victims of slavery? Maybe we do, and I don't know about it.
Bill, thank you very much for that call. I think that's a great idea. I would back that 1,000%. 617-266-6868. But if there was an honest discussion or admission about slavery, in other words, for example, that the Jews were enslaved to build the pyramids. The Egyptians used slaves to build the pyramids. In other words, it's not just America that had slavery. Almost every major country, culture, civilization used it. Now, you don't see the Egyptians saying, ooh, we got to tear down the pyramids. Or you don't see the Jews, for example, say, oh my, we were enslaved thousands of years ago. We built those pyramids. Give them back. Tear them down. In other words, there has to be a certain point where you say, look, the past is the past is the past. I'm sorry. Sandy, I don't know from where, but Sandy, welcome.
Hello?
Hi, Sandy.
Hi, I am so sick of this talk. Other blacks complain about is slavery. They were enslaved in this country for a little over 2 centuries. The whites were enslaved in Africa for over 7 centuries, especially the Irish. And the Irish were also enslaved in this country because it was cheaper to get the slaves from Ireland than it was to bring them all the way over from Africa.
Sandy, if you don't mind me asking, are you of Irish descent?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Don't you think I should get money from the government? Don't you think that...
Sandy, I got to tell you, you have no idea how happy I am that you called. Sandy, don't get me wrong. I love my wife. I only got eyes for my wife. I love you in a non-sexual way. I used to teach this to my students all the time. The Irish were actually slaves for centuries. They were, in fact, enslaved by African slave traders. And the Irish don't even know. I bet Brittany didn't even know this.
I did, actually.
Oh, you did? Okay, good for you, Brittany. Most people of Irish descent don't even know this. And not only were they traded as slaves around the world, they were actually traded as slaves here in the New World. Look it up. I mean, it's a fact. So if we're going to get into the whole reparations and I'm a victim and I'm this, believe me, you got a lot of groups waiting in line. A lot of people now are going to be at the table who want to get paid. So how come you never hear about Irish slavery or European slavery or what they did to the Chinese or what was done to other racial or ethnic groups? How come it's the same issue again and again and again? You know why? Because that's the stick they want to use to beat the founding fathers, beat the Constitution, and beat America itself.
WRKO, the voice of Boston. WRKO, the voice of Boston.
2:35 here on the great WRKO. Okay, my friends, it is an international story with a major local angle, and yet the local media here are downplaying an obvious truth regarding what took place this weekend in Marseille in the south of France. So, for those of you that haven't heard, 4 female Boston College foreign exchange students, and their names have now been released as well as their pictures. I have to say they look like wonderful, I say kids in a very affectionate way, young women, 20, 21 years of age, really salt of the earth. You can just tell by looking at these pictures, really just good, decent kids, students, young students. Courtney Siverling, Charlotte Kaufman, Michelle Krug, and Kelsey Costin. If I mangled any of the names, my apologies. They were there in the south of France. It's the end of the holiday season. 3 of them attend a school. They're exchange students, so they go to class in Paris. Another one is in Copenhagen. And so they were in the south of France, catching a train, heading back to Paris. As they were at the Gare de Marseille St. Charles station Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, a 41-year-old female attacker, using a cleaning substance containing hydrochloric acid, sprayed their faces with acid. It was an acid attack. The purpose was to burn their faces off. 2 of the girls were sprayed in the face. By the grace of God, they were not seriously injured. 2 of the other girls just had acid fly, but it went on their legs. So they didn't suffer any kind of facial burns. One of the students, the young women, apparently has partial loss of vision in one of her eyes. Now, the story went everywhere. The Daily Telegraph, the Times of London, even the New York Times, the Washington Post, it got picked up everywhere. The police immediately said that the 41-year-old female attacker did not shout out Allahu Akbar, that she did not shout out a slogan, and they claim that she suffers from quote-unquote deep psychological problems. That's in fact the exact wording that they use, deep psychological problems, and so they don't believe that this attack was terrorism related. And immediately, the local media here, like the parrots that they are, they don't want to do any investigating or any kind of journalism or anything. They just, okay, it wasn't terrorism, nothing malicious intended, just a crazy woman. Nobody wants to look into what the French media is reporting. In other words, the media that are closest to the attack, who've done profiles on the female attacker, and not just simply take the words of the authorities, who, as you know, are very politically correct and will do everything they can to try to cover up crimes committed by Muslims. Well, the female attacker allegedly suffered facial burns herself. When she was much younger, she was also the victim of an acid attack on her face. Because in Muslim cultures and in Muslim societies, for women, especially young, attractive women, to walk around without a veil, to not have a hijab, a burqa, to not cover their face, is considered blasphemous and offensive and anti-Islam. And so for that, she also had acid thrown in her face. And so one of the reasons why she targeted those 4 Boston College female foreign exchange students was out of revenge for what had happened to her. In other words, I had my face burned, now I want your face to burn. How come the local media here isn't playing up this angle at all? How come they're burying this seminal truth? That in France, and the French media reported on this right after the attack, there are hundreds of acid attacks upon French women every year, or foreigners, or tourists, or Western women. That in fact in England, in Britain, right across the English Channel, last year alone, 450 British women suffered acid attacks from Muslim extremists or Islamic fundamentalists. What's the sin? Because Western women walk around with no veil, they don't cover their faces, no hijab, and so they want them to cover their faces, you throw acid in their face. What those Boston College students suffered is increasingly now becoming mainstream. It is becoming a common occurrence. Whether it be in France, whether it be in Britain, whether it be in Germany, whether it be in Sweden, whether it be in Italy, in other words, in all of these European countries where they have imported large elements of the Muslim population. The more Muslim refugees they bring in, the more Muslims they bring in from North Africa and the Middle East, the more they bring their Islamic customs, traditions, and frankly, some of them, their barbaric ways with them. And one of them is acid attacks on women. Now, I know the Boston Globe had a front page story. Yes, true. But where's the editorial? How come the liberals in this state, all of them supposedly feminists, all of them big Elizabeth Warren supporters? By the way, where's the chief on this? But let that go. Where's Channel 4? Where's Channel 5? Where's Channel 7? Where's Channel 10? Where's Channel 25? Where are they in condemning this attack on the faces of these 4 Boston College female foreign exchange students by a Muslim attacker? You want to talk about patriarchy. You want to talk about sexism. You want to talk about misogyny. You want to talk about oppression of women. What is more sexist? What is more patriarchal? What is more misogynistic than compelling women to have to cover themselves from head to toe, and in particular to have to cover their faces? I ask you. And then if you don't, to splash their faces with acid, to disfigure them, to make them ugly, to mutilate them, to ravage them, to desecrate them. Where's the Boston Globe? How come their editorials aren't screaming about this? Where's WGBH? Where's NPR? Where are all the liberal feminist professors at Harvard? How come they're not all up in a tizzy about this? Notice, whenever Muslims commit crimes, especially against women, the left, the silence is deafening. It is absolutely deafening. Now, I said this to Brittany. We always do a pre-show meeting. I said, Brittany, let's flip it. Let's just say there was one, quote, deranged Trump supporter. Okay, with quote unquote deep psychological problems. Some person who got acid thrown in their face when they were young, and so now they attack 4 Boston College female students. Forget France, they do it here. and they throw acid in the face. They threw acid in their faces. Do you think they would be doing lifestyle puff pieces on Channel 4 or Channel 10 or whatever about foreign exchange students? You have to be careful when you go to Europe. Be careful with your daughter or your son, and these are the tips you need. Or would they be condemning Donald Trump himself, saying, look at the Fuhrer, look at Hitler. Just like the Nazis were out assaulting women and trying to oppress women. This is the new patriarchy. This is the new sexism. This is the new misogyny. Forget grabbing them by the pee. Forgive me. They're throwing acid in women's faces. They're stoning them for adultery. In most Muslim countries, women are not allowed to vote. They're not allowed to drive a car. They're not allowed to have an education. They're not even allowed to face their accuser when they're raped unless they have multiple males who will corroborate their story. Where's the outrage? How come the libs never speak out against that? Where's Elizabeth Warren? Where's the Boston Globe? Nowhere. And the only thing the liberals in this state now worry about is, oh my God, what will happen to my little Cindy or my little Jenny? Because for all of these limousine liberals, whether it be in Cambridge or Wellesley or Newton or Brookline or whatever, Swampscott, you can pick your neighborhood, sending their daughter or son off to do a semester, say, in the City of Love, Paris, or in London, or in Berlin, or in Milan, it's like a rite of passage. It's like a rite of passage. So all they're worried about is, will my child get an acid thrown in my face? But God forbid you should actually single out the perpetrator. God forbid you should try to call out and hold accountable the faith, the religion, the culture, the political religious ideology that justifies and supports all of this. Then they don't want to say a word. Then all they care about are the deplorables. No, we don't want your hate here. No hate here. No home for hate, you Trump voter, you. But you want to throw acid in women's faces. Hey, come on now, Jeff. Hey, Jeff, come on now. I say A, you say B. I say tomato, you say tomato. Hey, let 1,000 flowers bloom, Jeff. Everybody's welcome, Jeff. All faiths are welcome, Jeff. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me ask you this. 4 Boston College female foreign exchange students sprayed with acid at a Marseille train station. Why is the media downplaying the Muslim connection and the Muslim angle? Why will they not let the people know that acid attacks by Muslims on Western women in France, Britain, across Europe have been soaring the last several years? Are they cowards? Or do they just not care about women's rights for all of their talk? 617-266-6868. Will you be telling your children to avoid France and Europe? Will you be sending your children to be an exchange student? 617-266-6868. Your calls next. Pat in Beverly, you're up first. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, how you doing?
Good.
Well, I just wanted to set the record straight for a couple of listeners out there. The identified attacker by the Marseille police is a 41-year-old mentally unstable woman. There's no connection to the Islamic Brotherhood or ISIS or any Muslim at all. And the vast majority of the attacks in England, there's 460 reported acid attacks by the London Police Department, and they say it's gang-related. So I'm not entirely sure where you're getting the Muslim connection here.
Well, if you read the French press, she is a Muslim. You know that.
Well, if you read the report from the Marseille Police Department, she's a 41-year-old mentally unstable woman.
Well, no, I mean, I did mention that she's an unstable woman and that she's got deep psychological problems. But the fact is...
And I also choose not to judge 1.6 billion people on the actions
we'll
of
get
one
to that.
person.
Hold on, Pat. We'll get to that in a second. So the fact is that she's a Muslim. This was done to her when she was younger because she didn't cover her face. And so she's never really recovered from that. And so she feels a lot of anger and frustration. Now, as for women being forced to cover their faces, you know in Saudi Arabia, women are compelled to have to cover themselves head to toe when they get out of the house. You know that.
Cool. That sounds kind of repressive. And
You
maybe
think?
we could fix that in Saudi Arabia.
You think? Hold on, Pat. I'm just getting warmed up. Hold on. In Iran, you know it's the same thing. You realize that. In Qatar, in the United Arab Emirates, in Kuwait, in large parts of Pakistan, in large parts of Afghanistan. I could go country after country if you want. Increasingly now in Turkey.
I mean, we live in supposedly a progressive America.
No. I don't want to play those games. The fact of the matter is that in most Muslim cultures and in most Muslim societies, women are fundamentally oppressed. They have to cover themselves from head to toe. They are at best second-class citizens. They're denied the right to vote. They're denied the right to have an education. In many countries, they can't even drive. Now, that's just a fact. Now, why is it as you, as a self-proclaimed liberal or progressive, why will you not condemn Islam? Why will you not speak out against the Muslim faith?
Let me go ahead and do that for you, just right now. Let me go ahead. On behalf, and I choose not to speak for everybody because I can't do that, but I condemn hateful and violent actions like this with the utmost of my being. They do not belong in this world. They are not okay. If they're perpetrated in the name of Islam or any religion, then they are not representative of that religion. I think that you
hold on. Why do you say...
I think that you would agree that if someone commits, those Planned Parenthood bombings in the name of Christianity,
right. Now the evil Christians. Unbelievable.
No.
Let me ask you this. No, Pat, let me ask you this. Listen, Pat, I'm being very serious. Are you a Muslim scholar?
Are you a Muslim scholar?
Hold on. I'm going to ask you a question. Are you a Muslim scholar?
No, I don't think you are either.
Hold on. Are you an expert on Islam?
I am not, but I don't think that you are either.
Fine. That's okay. But I'm not speaking...
You can't posit Islam.
I know, but I'm not speaking on behalf of their religion. You are. Hold on, Pat, let me get the question out. You said that this is not representative of their faith. How do you know that?
Because you read the Quran, or
you read the Quran.
Islamic
Whoa.
Yeah, I read the Quran.
You've read the Quran. So then you know explicitly what the Quran says about women then.
Yeah, I know the Bible says I'm supposed to...
No. I'm not asking you about the Bible.
Okay.
I'm asking you. You said I don't believe you have. I don't believe you've read the Quran. But since you've read the Quran, because I have. So I can cite to you chapter and verse. Tell me, what does the Quran say about women?
Oh, my God, bruh.
Oh, my God. Don't like the facts, huh? You see? Look at these moonbats. See? They can't argue on the facts. So notice, Christianity. Now, let's leave Christianity alone. I'm asking you about Islam. They can't answer it because if they look at Islam itself, Islam needs to be fundamentally reformed. And the liberals don't have the guts to call for it. Jim in Boston, I've got 1 minute. Go ahead, Jim.
Hey, Jeff. I like your show very much.
Thank you.
I'm just calling because my daughter was accepted to Suffolk, and she's an honor student, got accepted to the honor program. And, she worked hard to get into that position and to get accepted to Suffolk. And now she's a sophomore, and my wife and I discussed her going to Italy for a semester. And we looked at all these issues, and it was a great concern for us. How do you make that decision with the well-being of your daughter? We kind of came down and said, well, these things can kind of happen anywhere. You really can't live in fear, so you have to go out and live your life and enjoy it. And if going abroad for a semester was what you wanted to do, we'd let her go. But I would like the media to at least report these things honestly and openly, so that people, we did our research, but I would like them to report it so we can get the facts straight. And when we make these decisions, we can make an educated and informed decision.
Jim, you're completely right. Listen, look, your daughter should go to Italy, but she has to be careful. She has to be alert, and she can't cover the wool over her eyes. And I think you're being a great dad. Okay, my friends. I'm up against it. Okay, please, my confrontation with Senator Elizabeth Warren, it's up on WRKO.com. Please watch it, send it around. I'll have the fallout tomorrow on the Kuhner Report. Gotta go. Hala, hala, hala.
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 93.7 WEEI HD2 Lawrence, Boston. It's 3 o'clock.